A Declaration for Terran Involvement -1998. A Declaration for Terran Involvement. John Robinson. Honorable Andromedan Council, I am writing this letter on behalf of my fellow Terrans for your consideration. With all due respect directed towards the Council, I request your attention to the matters that I am about to present. I do this without reservations, for all Terrans who have yet to realize the graveness of the developing situations, and on behalf of those Terrans who are aware of impending events that focus upon and directly involve our planet and race. It has been brought to our attention that the Nibiru race have come forward to the Andromedan Council to present their claim of ownership of the Earth and all upon it, including some of the surrounding planets that make up the Sol system. The reason behind this open letter is that no Terran has been invited to sit and participate in the presentations and ensuing deliberations being brought forth by the Nibiru. Being sentient beings, we have the sovereign right when issues involving us directly that affect our way of life, we should have a presence and voice representing our world. In the following text, I will support our right of claim. For the Council's consideration, when another race steps forward and claims ownership over territory, they should be very careful in what they claim is truth. They must have their issues in order and be able to back them responsibly. Should the right of ownership include claims of ownership over sentient beings? We say no. For only one being could claim ownership over all things, ensouled or not. That would be the Isness, creator of all in the universe and beyond. Each of us know at some level of beingness that the existence of every sentient being within this universe was originally brought forth and is continually maintained from and by the very existence of the Isness. The Nibirus propose their claim of ownership over us is due to their specific genetics relating to our current physical holographic body types. How could the Nibiru possibly claim ownership over life that they had no responsibility in creating in the first place? We are immortal sentient beings who take on physicality to maximize our experience through density, which we give life to these physical manifestations. And due in part to purposely built-in genetic defects, over time we must cast aside one physical form for a new one. Our natural beingness, as a part of the Isness, lives on forever. The Nibiru claim that our current physical body represents their race more than any other race that has visited Terra in the past, due to genetics that they introduced within us by their creational scientists. We claim that they were not the first to create a human form upon Terra. There were other preceding races that performed similar experiments prior to the Nibiru's illegal reign over us. If the Nibiru want to make an argument regarding genetics, then we will require further exploration into this issue. We would request that the Honorable Council locate and summon the being once known as Enki to the Nibiru race. We recognize him as their original master genetic scientist. Let us all hear firsthand how Enki, using his own DNA, went about the task of genetic deletions and additions to our genetic code sequence. We want to specifically hear about the reasons and benefits behind the genetic manipulations and what they were to offer us Terrans as a race. Even though he's no longer a Nibiru, we understand that he has taken on physical form once again as a member of another race. And unlike we Terrans, he has full awareness of his past knowledge intact, that would greatly add to a better understanding of the Nibiru's past intent regarding our physicality. The Nibiru must offer answers to us Terrans regarding their part in the controlling of our race that contributed to our stagnation and growth, as a race. What is their true intent regarding us after so long an absence? Have them share with the Council what they directly know about the ongoing soul entrapment process in place within this solar system, one which was designed to keep us entrapped in a circle of reincarnational lifetimes, that purposely veils us from our true identity life after life. We want to know the truth about the priesthoods and the royal bloodlines that they left behind. We feel that the Nibiru should answer for the priesthoods' actions, since they left them here to watch over us while the Nibiru have been away from our planet. We might find that the Nibiru taught them many of the secrets needed to continue the soul entrapment. We have seen before, that as our race would gain in knowledge, the priesthood was trained to design even more elaborate deceptions to keep us confused, ignorant and trapped. The Nibiru and others knew that they could not take away our free will of choice. However, we contend that the priesthood was ordained to use every method possible to see that we would not find the path back to our rightful freedom. We contend that through those efforts, the Nibiru did much to assist in the clouding of our physical minds so that most Terrans would forget the truth, stopping them from being able to make better, decisive, responsible choices for ourselves. When you have been so deceived by the lies that are offered up as truth, and that all sorts of lies have been designed to keep us spiritually off the true path, this cries out for correction. Let alone, it opened the door for further intrusion by yet even other races, Later on, the Nibiru have proclaimed themselves to be our gods. Why did they leave us? What purpose was served by their decrees of sin and blind faith? Why must all the blame be on the Terrans' faults and burdens? Why don't the Nibiru take some responsibility for their actions and inactions if they wanted to be our gods? Have Enlil, Jehovah, tell the Honorable Andromedan Council why he became so enraged with us Terrans that he set up the cause of the last great flood. If not for the quick actions of other Nibiru from Enki's family, our entire Terran race would not be here today. Was our growing spiritual enlightenment that frightening to Enlil for him to want us destroyed? I don't see how those actions were a free will choice of ours. How will we know that Enlil does not intend to finish what he failed to do the last time he was here? It appears he requires mining rights, but does he desire his Terran Lulus to work his mines? When the Nibiru were sent away, that ended their right of ownership. Others followed and eventually all those known as gods had left. They have been silent for a long time. We have evolved without them, and they have no recognized power over us. Ultimately, we hear that the Nibiru and others want us off the planet entirely. They want it for themselves with the idea of profits and gains for their self-serving interests. This is our race's home world. They left it to us long ago. Our requests I respectfully approach the Andromedan Council to request the inclusion of some enlightened Terrans during presentations and deliberations by the Nibiru regarding their claim of ownership over Earth. There are many of us that believe in the responsible freedoms of choice, because we are not property whose fate should be determined by others. Now is the time to put an end to the secrecy about the reality of life elsewhere. We encourage the Council's decision regarding the flyover. We feel that it is time for Terrans to step forward and be allowed entry into the process that determines what is or is not to be allowed in regards to our race, our planet and what's happening in this solar system. Our state of evolution should not be a sole determining factor, for we have been down through the ages deliberately manipulated race. We recognize that the Andromedan Council and all associated races are here to correct the wrong in their tampered history's past which affects your present time and future. While the replay of history is taking place, the outcome requires constant changes. For whatever reasons you are coming back through time to work with us, we recognize that we have benefited greatly from what has been shared with us so far. For this we are grateful. And because of your sharing we have come to see that it would be unfair to the Terran race not be represented during these very important presentations and hearings. We should recognize our shared responsibility. Please understand that for those who would be chosen to participate, they will hold a responsibility to our entire planetary race to report on a worldwide basis about what had been shared and discussed along with any probable outcomes decided from those discussions. To accomplish this we will be asking for certain participation by various member races of the Andromedan Council to assist us and bring forth the news to our planetary race. Besides, extraordinary events require extraordinary actions. All that I have presented in this open letter is only the start of our intent towards changing our world. You have reminded us that we have our free will of choice. We are still continually kept in the dark by lies through an ongoing deception that tells us that the lies are truth. Those of us who know are often kept in check by further deception and lies by our own kind who betray us while being assisted and controlled by outside non-Terran influences. Small groups that do come out with the truth are often quickly done away with by whatever means possible to keep the lies intact. This must stop. The balance on our world has been unfairly tipped and screams for responsible correction at this time. If we are to really determine for ourselves what is truth, then we must not be kept any longer from the reality of the truth. When truth is concerned, there should be nothing to hide. By writing this open letter to the Andromedan Council, I am stating that as a Terran, I cannot sit back and hear that others are vying for the rights over our planetary home, and possibly over us as a race, without expressing my deepest emotional concerns. I have invested all that I am towards enlightening my fellow Terrans. By my own choice, I have become involved with the Andromedan Council's decisions and I willingly pass them on to any Terran that wishes to listen. I accomplish this in a method that allows them to decide for themselves of their own free will of choice. I base my current life and intent using common sense with a very strong sense towards self-responsibility and determination to see that our world does the best that it can with all that we must endure in the time shortly ahead of us. I do this without any reservations, protected or not, for it is the right thing to do. I believe in my heart that it is still not too late to effect a non-violent planetary resolution supported by truth. Every sentient being was born of the isness, free to go out within the creation and co-create as we learn. We all agreed at the beginning to allow others the same rights of freedom, yet some desired otherwise. All our choices allowed for spiritual growth to occur. But each one of us, Terran and non-Terran, have a universal and unconditional right to allow others their way of life. Entrapment by all means and manner goes against our sentient, unconditional right of free will of choice. If it is the Andromedan Council's intent to put a stop to tyranny and restore balance to the universe, regardless of the prospective location on the lines of time, it must be done in an unconditional fashion, promoting the proper rights for all who cherish free will of choice. We Terrans have a great amount of truth yet to be uncovered. And decisions, not tainted by politics, will assist us in deciding our direction of responsibility. Keeping us all separated from the reality of the events places us at a grave disadvantage and holds back our potential. In closing, the Council might think, but what of the directive on non-intervention? May we remind you, that when you first contacted the Terran contactees, regardless of their true prior origins, you set in motion intervention by creating those actions. You might cite that the number of enlightened Terrans is small at this time. You have shared important coming events with us. Yet those of us who know of these events have not the tools to see that all Terrans can learn of these events. While it is true that each individual has the ultimate responsibility of self-discovery, this cannot be achieved when a racist thought has been purposely blocked from the truth. Due to the depth of the coming events, we do not have the luxury of time. You will do more for yourselves and assist our common cause, by coming forward soon and working directly with more of us. That is our free will of choice when knowledge is responsibility. You have intervened on other Terran timelines that have resulted in direct effect upon this main Terran timeline. Those of us who have learned of your actions are grateful. But we recognize that those actions have shortened our main timeline regarding our responsible actions. We need the Council to acknowledge to yourselves and to us, that you have crossed the line of non-intervention involving your responsibility along with ours, that ties together our respective futures. If there are those races who wish to take from us our home or use us as slaves once more, then it must be our right of free will of choice to attend these meetings by being present and accounted for. On behalf of the Terran race, we recognize that various members of the Council races have offered up their incarnated physicality on our behalf. In memory of those who have chosen to help, we will do them great honor if we can bring to a successful conclusion the right and proper outcome for which they set out to assist us all in accomplishing. With the highest of regards and respect for the Honorable Andromedan Council and associated member races, we the Terrans of Terra await your decision. Terran World Forum. Below are replies of John Robinson to 2 curious messages. Excerpts from Andromeda Central, the former site of John Robinson and Alex Collier. From Mega7777@frontier.net, John, email address unverified. Date, the 26th of October 1998. Greetings. First of all, this is not channeled, received telepathically, or mental transmissions. This communication is living thought expressed. There are no intermediaries. Truth becomes when it is manifested. Before that in prophecy form it is just thought. Then spoken and finally brought to pass. You call us the Jehovah group, a concept of being Terrans cannot comprehend. We truly love your being, yet without your understanding of fulfillments of what you ought to perceive as Genesis-type thoughts, non-religious. The junction of times completes its preordained course. Other times in your history records show a time when the Jehovah group allowed this chain of events to consummate. At that time Nibiru completed the tasks, similar as this junction. As the DNA becomes increasingly corrupted, both naturally and spiritually as your thought form may perceive, for we never had a religion that is purely Terran. At this time we do not wish to use the phrase time, or times because it is so elementary to the universe. But for your reference only. We have never asked for counsel from Earth beings. Cases point, for your reference, the deluge. Yet we do all that was possible to make a way of escape for 120 solar cycles. Our incarnate, whom you record as Noah, warned, pleaded, and exhorted to the ends to none effect. No matter which notion of this you may be familiar with, the earth was turned into chaos. Again Nibiru fulfilled the purpose. It is a terrible shame that Terrans disregard their own so-called prophets. As it is plainly written for all to read, as it was in the days of Noah so it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. Terrans, your hour in the light of the sun is over. Now what many call the end time has peaked. We have chosen to bring to your attention a few of the manifestations of your age, both naturally and by the incarnates as in the days of our Noah before the deluge. The events of 1906, 1917, 1933 Ohio River events. The great 1963 cloud event published on the front cover of Life magazine for all to see. The Great Pyramid Stones which brought the 1964 Good Friday earthquake in Alaska, which even your scientists testify shook the total Earth and moved it out of its sockets. A direct result of that which was spoken by what you would call prophecy at the Angelus Temple in 1963 concerning your west coast, Louisiana. The head of the serpent San Andreas would rise snapping its tail out to the Aleutians. The words were thus spoken by our incarnate O Capernaum. Capernaum, the city that calls itself by the angels, shall be brought down 40 miles to the very bowels of the earth, 1,200 miles north to south. For if the works that had been done in Sodom that have been done in you, Louisiana, Sodom would stand today. Yet, your people Terrans reject these dire warnings. Now you say, shall we not have a voice? As a father would warn a son of oncoming danger and destruction and the son would not take heed, our job is finished. The answer is echoed throughout the belt of the heavens. Time is no more. The voice speaks of this density. Some will come up, please not a rapture, most will not. It is the DNA, the pattern of things both heavenly and earthly, but not as you can perceive. The isness knows this is for good. The Nibiru will do what they must do and we will observe. John, your thoughts as you read this are recorded and your loving concern is also noted. Alex will not accept this transmission, not that it is necessary. Once this is written and released, it is. The universal doctrine of sacrifice declares this. It is true, John, you were once free will beings but your race chose to pervert this concept. Think of what Terrans could have been, John. Free will is on a course of total oblivion, so we cry out to you through the gates of the portholes of time. 1 foot on land, 1 foot on sea, time is no more. John, don't be dismayed that the Andromedans were not truthful with Alex. They do not speak in absolutes for they are not omnipotent. How many times has this happened before? Your history is so unbalanced, but humans don't seem to be able to learn. Bless you. Signed, Acadiasia/1060. Response from John, to the Jehovah Group. My understanding of Jehovah is that the one Noah's Enlil of the Nibiru is this being. And as I would expect from Enlil, you speak down to us as if we are lesser beings. You do so by stating that we Terrans cannot comprehend the concept of the Jehovah Group. I am not going to accept such statements, for it is clear to me that your so-called higher understanding of things does not recognize the truth of my being. I agree with you that there was and I add that there shall never be a true religion that is Terran. The close attempt to a true Terran religion would be that of the native Indian races. In my opinion, there is no need for a religion on our world, for we are beings of free will of choice. You speak of Genesis-type thoughts. They can be looked at from many angles. From a biblical sense, Genesis was genetic manipulation, which some used the term to mean creation. But if we are to take this Genesis thought forward, we would see that the creational aspects of it are within each of us as co-creators with the isness. For we are continually creating by our very thought the existence that we perceive in these fissile shells. And you know as well as I, that thought directs matter, and so if we were to change our current thinking, then all reality would change right along with it. You state that you allowed these events to consummate as the Nibiru completed the tasks. Once again you are assuming that you are better than us. I would expect such a statement from you, Enlil. And if you're not Enlil, maybe you're his father Enu. Heck, why not take it higher to the Orion group with their Syrian B cohorts? Why do I make such a statement? Because I hear no mutual respect coming from your statements. Instead I hear ego that is out of control. Yes, the DNA is corrupted, because that is how you left it, full of recessiveness. That is what you desired, because out of your own fear of us you could not allow us to gain an upper hand, for you feared that we would do unto you what you have done to us. I reminded you, Jehovah Group, that the universal law of karma will be balanced. Indeed you have not asked for our counsel, because you feel us not worthy. You cite as your case point the deluge for which was brought upon us by Enlil out of his fear, fueled by his rage that we as a Terran race rose up and began to question his authority. We were becoming genetically equal to him, and so we had to be destroyed, for which he has tried in vain to make our survivors believe that we brought it upon ourselves. How weak is his thought, that we would be so ignorant in light of the truth. You wish us to believe that the Noahs were trying to save us, yet it was Enki's sons Marduk and Quetzalcoatl, to name but a few, that went about the task of saving some of our race during your jealous insanity, which we note as the biblical Great Flood. You are right when you state that the Nibiru fulfilled the purpose. You speak of the Son of Man and prophets. Yes, we have had some great enlightened teachers, but their words and deeds go greatly altered within the written Bibles of our so-called history. We have been told that the isness God walked upon the earth as the one that is called Jesus. When will you beings realize that this concept is misleading and totally unrequired, since the isness is within each of us? There was no single person that was ever called Jesus Christ. Next you focus on events that have occurred. Now I am not going to profess to know of these events, and it really is not required of me to do so. But my opinion of them can go one of two ways. Some or all were naturally occurring events brought on by our thoughts and/or the thoughts of the sentient being that is our planet, or these events were created by others for use as end-time prophecy designed to propagate fear amongst those Terrans who have been greatly deceived. Why is it that you types always think that we are such bad people that we must be punished? You have labeled us sinners, told us how to live our lives in repentance of our misdeeds, why we are even born as sinners and so on and so forth. This all flies in the face of free will of choice and you know it. If you are so superior, where is your compassion and unconditional love for us, to see us succeed no matter what? If we were your children, then you should nurture us unconditionally as parents do. As above, so below is what I say is a universal truth. Interesting that you speak of Sodom. For is not America today likened to Sodom? The truth that was America was a coming together, melting pot of the peoples of the world, where all were to be free of the oppression that others bring to the world. Did that not stand for the best circumstances for free will? Sure, corruption has set in as our once great experiment of a free nation is being dismantled, but the freedom still exists. It's no longer supported by the law of the land, but the thoughts of the people still hold the concept of freedom, and that is what holds off the complete conversion of the United States to tyranny as of this day. And why is this so important? Because the people that creates by its very thoughts alone, can by sheer numbers change the outcome of the world if they were to totally unite together. Now that is the power of creation. Are you scared yet? You best rethink your thinking, and Lil. Yes, you were right, that a time is near where those who choose to remain in one reality will be separated from those who wish to move to a new reality. The game of third density is almost over in this universe, and each shall choose as to what direction they individually will take. But it is a shame that Terrans and many other races have been deceived into disempowering their free will of choice by races who fear them and wish to direct them without a means of choice. So you state that the Nibiru will do what they must do and you will observe. Then I state to you and the Nibiru, be very careful of what you do. For the universal law of karma will reflect back upon you what you try to bring upon us or any other race. You do not scare us. Most of the Terran race is asleep you feel, so you think you have an advantage. Beware of the sleeping giant. While you possibly could extinguish our physical existence, but you will have fits with our sentient reality. Beware, for our future just might surprise you. You see in Lil Jehovah, how sure can you be as to whom I really am? I can assure you that I am not dismayed with the Andromedans, for they are my friends. They at least share with me the truth as they have come to know it, and insist that I take my own responsibility in discovering the truth for myself. In your mind, you think all is absolute. If that were a true statement, then we Terrans would not even be here, because your great flood would have wiped us out. You left because you lost. There was and is now nothing omnipotent about you or what you claim to represent. You ask, how many times has this happened before? I say to you, that it has been so long in our history that we have forgotten what it would be like to be not manipulated by others. Alex asks, explain to us all why it was required to divide our race in such a manner so that we could not come back together again? If we can't learn our history, why is it that you keep hiding it from us? And I add, why did you find it necessary to try and destroy us, many times? Why have you time and time again created wars against humans, from not only this world, but countless others? Tell us in Lil Jehovah what scares you so much about humans? So I will close in this way. Alex and I are not interested in hearing you say you're sorry. We are interested in a solution to help give back to our race their dignity, that you and other races took from us. With all due respect, John. From nirvanaloka@hotmail.com. Nirvanaloka, email address unverified. Date, the 17th of October 1998. Namaskar. We are your old friends from Earth who requested some process info once. As we have experience in this line from 1979, we will offer some advice. First of all, any delegation that would presume it is representing the Earth must be equally represented by at least the three major races. The delegation should not have any government officials from any country who might have any agendas. This includes UN and EU officials. Each delegate should be vegetarian and have a basic understanding of the soul's eternality and reincarnation. Finally, care should be taken that no delegate has been implanted. We hope this information can assist you. You may contact us here. Nirvana. Response from John. Nirvana, thank you for your thoughtful response to my open declaration to the Andromedan Council. So far, responses have been agreeable and helpful. Your advice is very interesting indeed. When I sat down to write my open declaration, I was not in a space to determine the rules of engagement, but rather pointing out that engagement must be done. Protocol would have to be designed if the idea was accepted, but you bring up some interesting points that I would like to comment on. You call for representation by 3 major racial types for Earth. Indeed, it would be ideal to have a representative of each racial type represented. If those Terrans of each racial type exist that are willing and understanding of such a task, then they should be asked to participate. But there is a point that I must make. At the beginning of my declaration I stated that we Terrans are sentient beings. That simply would mean that we really are part of the much larger family for which we and all Andromedans, Nibiruans and most all other races, are a part of that oneness. The reality of it all is that our roles as Terrans are just that, a role that is being played out within a particular physicality that our souls have been trapped in for some time now. Another way to look at our Terran race is that we are really just one singular race. The differences that are continually pointed out to all of us are both political and religious in origin, designed to keep us separated from the realization that we are really just one race with a vast genetic makeup. I agree with you about government officials. This really is a common person issue. While government officials are also just people like you and I, they do usually have an agenda that is oftentimes self-serving. My proposal is that whoever is chosen will have the responsibility to the entire world to bring back the information and share it with the entire world population and not just the government representatives. If we are to succeed as a world race, we must decide individually first to work together, and that means that the people of Terra will have to finally recognize that they are one planetary race. And see that when we work together, the action of our common thoughts will forever change the ways of our world and how we are looked upon by others in a universal understanding. You state that each delegate should be vegetarian and have the basic understanding of reincarnation and the soul's immortality. I would imagine that most every Terran that would be asked to be a part of the Terran delegation would have some type of understanding of who and what they are as sentient beings. But I look upon your choices and feel that they are too restricting and, in my most humble opinion, not required. You see, Nirvana, I feel a being needs to understand within themselves that they indeed have the self-responsibility of free will of choice. That they are self-starters and do not place their own personnel needs ahead of others. In other words, they recognize that they are natural-born leaders, for which we are, and must carry out a great responsibility through their determination of action to represent our world's race in the light of what we truly are, regardless of the roles we are currently playing. By saying we must be vegetarians or recognizing that we are immortal beings does not currently represent our race. For most beings playing Terran roles at this time do not look at life in those terms. So, while having some of those understandings would be great for the representative being, perhaps at this time, it is not what the collective is all about upon the planet. The major issue here is, does another race of beings have the right to declare ownership over another race of beings who have been deceived by particular other races to the point that they no longer understand the truth of reality? And, should other races take on the responsibility to assist in helping that particular race to once again use their self-responsibility of free will to decide for themselves what should be their direction of existence, both in a physical or spiritual sense of beingness? I would agree with you that a delegate should not be implanted. For that would be a means of allowing others to listen in or even manipulate the outcome through the involvement of the chosen representatives. But it would be understood that prior to accepting the responsibility of being a representative, the host beings would perform consented examinations that would determine if such devices were present. Then the option of removal could be offered. I feel that any being who discovers that they have been implanted with any device without full knowledge of the implantation or what the device truly does, has every right to ask for its immediate removal. Under those conditions, an implant is a direct violation of a being's universal right of free will of choice. The information that you have shared with me is indeed important, in that it shows that if our race is invited to participate in discussions that involve our existence and well-being as a planetary race, that we must agree to certain procedures in order to carry out such a responsible task of representation. If it comes to pass that some Terrans will be asked to represent our planet, the chosen delegates must understand that they represent a vast diversity and expression of beingness that is represented upon this world. In my humble opinion, those that would be approached to represent us would already display the required understanding about the importance of the task at hand, for they will intuitively know that this is not about themselves but our entire planetary race. With deep respect, John Robinson. P.S. The Perseian race, like we are, were deceived into accepting a way of existence that enslaved them without their knowledge. As was told to me by Alex, another race of beings sent a lone representative to their planet in what we would say was a type of covert operation, and that this chosen being set about teaching the people of Perseian a more common-sense way of life. Over generations, I was told, the teachings grew until one day enough believed in those common-sense ideals, that they set into motion the action that would lead to the downfall of the controlling, governing and financial systems. The Perseians collectively decided to break free of the control and once again use their free will of choice to declare their universal right of freedom. While we no longer have the luxury of generations of time, we should see by example that we as a race have the same God-given free will of choice to overcome the oppressive deception that we now find ourselves governed by today, and that we should follow in the Perseians' example and break free before it is too late. By the power of our combined thought, our race can change all reality. Our power of action is that great.